Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to this program. One of the prices for political instability is that nothing ever gets settled. Everything is always up in the air. There's always rumors and speculation and uncertainty, and which really underlines the problem we've been talking about here. That as long as Zimbabwe remains a pariah state, ruled by corrupt, incompetent, and tyrannical thugs, we have rigged elections to stay in power, the country will never know any political stability or meaningful economic recovery. And so the turmoil on the political scene continues. The latest one is that Mnangagwa himself may be facing an upheaval in his own Zanu PF party. Let's just listen to this video clip and then we can comment on it.
Mnangagwa is reportedly trying to engage with Nelson Chamisa as Zanu PF factional fights goes to another level. So what is happening is that what President Mnangagwa was not expecting is actually happening from his camp. There is a rebellion, and that rebellion is starting or emanating from parliament itself. Recently, we saw the justice minister being sacked or being chased away from parliament. He is the leader of government business in parliament. He was actually chased away from parliament. We have seen Auxilia Mnangagwa being jeered and being booed in Manicaland. Several ladies were arrested, and there was pressure for those ladies to be arrested, to be released, and they were released. Right now, we have seen what the Mchangwas are actually doing. And at the end of the day, we can actually see that things are not well within Zanu PF. And there's enough intelligence to suggest that President Mnangagwa is going to face a very difficult moment and possibly an impeachment. There's going to be a trial on his presidency. Whether he likes it or not, they are going to try on him. So the only option for him to survive will be to play his cards very well. It's not a matter of surviving as the president, but it will be a matter of trying to evade the after effects if he leaves power. He is not loved. A lot of people do have grievances against him. So he has weighed his options and he has realized that Nelson Chamisa is the most powerful person in the nation of Zimbabwe, and the greatest possibility that Nelson Chamisa will take over power is very high. So he has started to send emissaries to Nelson Chamisa. He has started making overtures through some bishops or through some clerics. He has actually sent some bishops and some clerics to talk to Advocate Nelson Chamisa so that they can sit down privately and talk. This is something which he needs to have without the involvement of some people from Zanu PF and their camp.
Well, we don't have to listen to the rest of it. Benjamin, what do you think?
Good day to you all. You know, I don't know how some people come up with such stories or such conclusions or such rumors and publicly bring out such. I don't see. Yes, one thing I would agree with him. I have to agree with him is I think there is instability within Zanu PF at the present moment, and I think yes, it's true. Mnangagwa's popularity is dwindling. I can see within the war veterans, that department is slowly losing patience with him. I can see he's stepping on a couple of toes in there, and I think he's is overly, taken power to an extent where I think is no longer cooperating with everybody that needs to be talked to. Even if the decision is his at the end of the day, but some people take, being part of that decision making very, 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 very important. And I think he's not doing that with his lower ranks. So on that part, I would agree. The part that I think would I would never, to what benefit is it to go and approach Nelson Chamisa in his turmoil? How is he going to solve? That's the first thing, is how is he going to solve? How is Nelson Chamisa going to solve Mnangagwa's problems? Secondly, it doesn't make any sense at all. you know, I don't know how they come from a conclusion to say there's going to be elections in June, come what may. SADC is very, very upset. Now we are negotiating. We want him to come and help to protect Mnangagwa. This is exactly what I don't get the sense. I really don't get the sense. Not at all.
Well, the reality that Mnangagwa would be having political pressure, I totally agree. The problem is that Zimbabwe is a pariah state. And as much as he is spending billions of dollars on this PR exercise to try to give the impression that Zimbabwe is steaming ahead, the truth is it is not. And the fact that SADC condemned last year's elections underlines the fact that the regime is illegitimate. And as you know, there are going to be SADC meetings in August. And although SADC have not officially endorsed him as legitimate, there is always that hanging over his head that SADC may not, or one or two SADC leaders may decide that he is not legitimate. And so that always will hang over his head. And the internal squabbling within Zanu PF is to be expected. This is a regime that has always been fighting over power and influence like hyenas fighting over a carcass. So I think we can't rule it out. But I also agree with you that the idea that Mnangagwa will turn to Chamisa to try to somehow bolster his own image is naive, but I won't put it beyond him to do that. Of course, Chamisa supporters will say he is the strongest politician in Zimbabwe. Chamisa is not strong at all. As much as he was involved in the last year's elections, ever since when the results came out, and this guy Tshabangu started recalling those elected MPs, and Chamisa tried to fight hard to retain control, he quickly realized that he had no control of Triple C anymore, and so gave up. And to say somebody who has had to resign from his own party in a huff, and right now has no political party, is the strongest. I think it's naive, to say the least. And I think if Mnangagwa is negotiating with Chamisa, it's not so much, it's just try to hope by bringing in Chamisa one way or the other, he can diffuse the pressure from his own party. I don't think Chamisa carries any weight anymore. Much more so with SADC. I don't think there is any SADC leader who would fooled into believing that Chamisa has got any political credibility. He doesn't. I think that point must be made, and be made very loudly and very clearly. Any negotiations between Mnangagwa and Chamisa is their own personal affair. But we should not deceive ourselves into thinking that it somehow is solving the country's problems. It's not.
But if you are saying that, you know, Mnangagwa would need Chamisa to solve the problems that are in Zanu PF, then my question is, how is he going to play that role, you know, to be the mediator or to quench down whatever is happening in Zanu PF? I don't see that. I don't even, it doesn't make any sense, because I mean, let's be truthful. Within ZANU PF ranks, we know that this is Mnangagwa's last term, unless he meddles, you know, with the constitution. This is his last official term, right? There are a lot of guys within the ranks that want this, you know, this position, that want to be president. Then by us saying he's getting Chamisa, who has all that popularity, let's not take that away from him. He's got the popularity, he's got the mass behind him, right? The chances are, if he's to join ZANU PF ranks, he would become the next president, most definitely. So how do you think the others that are also eyeing that same seat would feel, or would they be able to tolerate or stomach this? I do not see it. They would rather, just like how they did it between, you know, the Mugabe coup, where there were two factions. One was the G40, one was with him, Mnangagwa de la Costa. That is how I see this would obviously pan out. That within the ranks there, they are already, you know, they are already uh, factions that they've already taken up their leaders who is to take over after that day. Because I mean, ZANU PF is known for not having a succession plan. Right now, they should be, you know, coming up with a candidate to say who is going to take over officially within the ranks. You may be vice president of the party today, but then tomorrow you are nothing, you know. So it's I think it's within ZANU PF, and I do not think at any point will ZANU PF allow the opposition to come and take over from within their ranks. It's like you're asking to say, is Chamisa going to be the head of ZANU PF? Because they're not even going to allow ZANU PF, that name, to die. So that's my thinking. I do not see how. Maybe you could help me, because I do not understand when people say, you know, Mnangagwa is asking Nelson Chamisa to help him. How?
Well, the way I would see it is Mnangagwa, if he was talking to Nelson Chamisa, would be in the sense that he could turn around and say, well, this is a government of national unity to some extent, or some kind of reconciliation to try to make progress. And that would definitely diffuse the pressure on him. Because at the present moment, the pressure is coming from within his party and also from the opposition. But like I said, personally, I don't think Chamisa has got any political muscle at all. He was leader of the Triple C. The Triple C has since imploded. And right now, he is not leading not even one of the factions of that has emerged of that Triple C. So he has got no party. And yes, as much as there are some people who are the Chamisa Chete individuals who support him, come what may, that really is not political. muscle, because an overzealous support base is never any political muscle in that sense. In this particular case, that a political base has managed has failed to stop Sengezo, for instance, recalling their elected MPs and the party itself fragmenting, breaking up. So, what's the point of having the 2 million voters who are just fanatical supporters and who didn't even have the common sense to ask him, when you said you were going to win these elections, what happened? Because you didn't win the elections. So I think we can put that one aside. The other point here is the issue of SADC. Let's be honest. Chamisa so far is managed, Mnangagwa is so far managed to get away with the legitimacy issue, because SADC, while they've accepted the damning reports from SADC and the AU that the last year's elections were flawed, they've not done anything about it. And it is no secret that South Africa, ANC, has supported Mnangagwa. But as we know, South Africa is having elections as we speak. And in 2 weeks' time, they'll be going to the poll. And indications are that ANC is getting a bloody nose. They'll be very lucky if they can win those elections and retain the majority. Many people believe they may find themselves in a situation where they need another smaller party to go into a coalition if they're going to remain in government. Whatever government that comes out, even if they were to win, I believe that the ANC government will not want to prop up the Zanu PF dictatorship anymore. That will have serious ramifications on Mnangagwa. One of the things about SADC is that they drag their feet, they don't make any decision. In this particular case, they should have come up and said, no, we've seen the report from SADC. However, we endorse President Mnangagwa as the legitimate government and have the matter settled. They never did that. So the matter is still hanging in the air. So if on the 29th of May, a more radical government emerges out of South Africa, you could see this whole matter blow into Mnangagwa's face again. Come August, SADC lead heads of state are supposed to be meeting in Harare. And they may find themselves in a situation where they've got to do something about it. Because as we know, for instance, one of the things that has also emerged is that Mozambique will be holding its elections in October. And there are reports saying that Zimbabweans have been registering as getting Mozambican IDs and registering so that they will vote. Now, that has got to be seen by any organization as totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. Will SADC, when they meet on Wednesday, want somebody like that to be the head of SADC? That is an interesting question. So it could be also pressure coming from that end, where Mnangagwa can see that if he can, by the time the SADC heads of states meet, he can be seen as, yes, made peace with his main political rival in the form of Chamisa, he could cut himself some slack. So I think one can say it both ways. But like I said at the beginning, the main problem with Mnangagwa is that at the end of the day, he is really illegitimate. And he's trying to prop up his own position by hook or by crook. That is the problem.
Yeah, as far as the legitimacy question is concerned, I think it will be decision day for SADC, especially going into this summit. All eyes will be on them, and I believe the whole international community will actually be scrutinizing the whole essence of having this organization. Is it to help the people? Because on one end, you have just come up and called a spade, and you said these elections did not meet our standards, which means SADC standards, did not meet Zimbabwe, constitutional requirements, and the world over in terms of democracy, right? And then here you are as an organization that clearly stated this. You are giving a prestigious honor, to that person that you just declared as illegitimate. I think this would be, and I think SADC is not very, very stupid. I believe all this effort that Zanu PF is doing, trying to make them as comfortable, would be such a big embarrassment at the end of the day. I really do not think they would, because I mean they know that everybody is looking into this issue. Zimbabwe is a concern for everybody, and you cannot just water down your own report, or not even water down, turn a blind eye to it, and then make that person is illegitimate government, president of Zimbabwe. Here you are, you're putting an illegitimate chairperson now of your organization. I think that would speak volumes, in how people look at SADC going forward. So I think it's D-Day for both Mnangagwa and both Zanu PF, not Zanu PF, SADC. Between one of the two, I think is going to fall very, very short. It's either SADC is going to lose its dignity, or Mnangagwa is going to be pushed to the limits and is going to buckle. We'll have to see. I don't like to speculate, but I think those are the two options that are there. As far as it comes to engaging Nelson Chamisa, I mean, just 2 days ago, this guy was cursing him and saying, so I do not see how they find each other, to say you send people to go and, try and calm the situation down, between the tension between us, but then you are there publicly, saying nasty things about me. Your vice president saying nasty things about me. Zimbabwe's situation right now is tense. I get it. There's a lot of speculation going on. There's a lot of unanswered questions, basically. But let us not presume some of these things that are so far-fetched. I do not think some of these things ever exist or will ever exist. I believe Chamisa and Mnangagwa are so far apart. I do not think any man can help find them to find each other. Absolutely not.
Well, let's just listen to this short clip video of Eddie Cross talking about this same issue I was talking about, that Zimbabwe or ANC in South Africa has kept Zanu PF in power by propping them up.
And we won the election in 2008 by 57 to 28. The jock flew to Zimba to see Mugabe. Mugabe at that stage was prepared to resign. But it was the jock, led by Emmerson Mnangagwa, who said to him, under no circumstances do you resign. We're going to fight back. That was Emmerson. And the reason was, that if they had lost the election, if they'd allowed MDC government to take place, where would they have been? They'd be nowhere.
What were you going to do to them?
I don't think we would have been any retribution from us, not from Morgan. He wasn't that kind of man. But they would have lost power, privilege, big cars, money. I mean, look at it from their point of view. Don't just look at it from outside, and just criticize them for what they did. But that's what they did. The big problem for me was that our African leaders, not one African leader, raised a question on this, including Mbeki. Mbeki accepted it. Why did the ANC fight the MDC for the full 17 years before the change? Why did the ANC fight the MDC? Have you ever thought about that?
You were in the trenches.
You know why?
Well, I'll stop it there. I think the point that I was trying to make there is made, that ANC has definitely been fighting on Zanu PF's corner for a very long time. But I believe that the elections that are taking place right now in South Africa are going to leave the ANC with a bloody nose. I do not see the even run up to those elections, ANC has received a lot of criticism. And the other day we were showing a cartoon of how ANC had invited Zanu PF to observe the elections there. And many parties in South Africa had protested against that. And in South Africa's election commission, they decided that Zanu PF was not going to be invited. Clearly showing that ANC is under pressure to stop propping up Zanu PF. So if ANC was to lose power, or even come out, win power, but come with a bloody nose, which I think they will, I don't see ANC still wanting to prop up this Zanu PF regime. So the pressure will be on SADC to do the right thing for a change. And so even if they were to let Mugabe, Mnangagwa take over the chairmanship of SADC, it's only for a year after all, we'll be going into 2028. And with the changed government in Pretoria, Zanu PF will know rigging elections will not, the regime can rig the elections, but getting away with it will be even more difficult this time. And unlike last year, where they rigged the elections, the election observer teams condemned the process, and somehow SADC accepted the report and then did nothing about it. Come 2028, if there was going to be a repeat of that, getting away with it will not be so easy. So the pressure is definitely there on Zanu PF. And as for our friend Triple C, I think the young man who gave that report of Chamisa being the strongest, most popular politician in Zimbabwe, he really is failing to read the writing on the wall. Triple C participated in last year's elections out of greed. And even SADC and the AU could see that now. Even when they had condemned the process as flawed, Chamisa and company still went ahead and took up their seats. and to underline that it was the seats they were after. As soon as they got their seats, they started fighting among themselves for those few seats. And they've been fighting over them ever since. And if anyone thinks could SADC leaders will not be aware of that, I think they're being naive, to say the very least. So I think, personally, we can honestly say there is a lot to play for here. And a lot of things could change for Zimbabwe come the 29th of May. The elections in South Africa could well define the course of history for Zimbabwe in many, many ways. So I think we need to sit back and watch. And to come back to the video clip we started with, Mnangagwa can try to prop up his position as much as he likes by negotiating with Chamisa, but nobody will be fooled by that. Chamisa is a non-entity now. He has got no political credibility. He has lost all political credibility. Just because he still has his wildebeest head of supporters, the Chamisa Chete Brigade, who will support him no matter what. I think SADC would be very foolish to think that somebody like that would be of any benefit to Zimbabwe, much less SADC. Chamisa will not stabilize the country. The Zanu PF will never let him rule. Mnangagwa, if he was to accommodate him, it will be purely for the purpose of window dressing. And I think the people of Zimbabwe should be smart enough to say, we are sick and tired of window dressing. We want real change here. And that is my final word on the issue. Don't know whether you want to give your final word on the issue, Ben.
In conclusion, this is a matter of my own opinion. I think everything still boils down to a SADC decision. I think this is where all the current pressure lies. It's on SADC. You have made a report. The report is there. The report is valid. It came from one of your own. They had meetings, and I do not want to speculate what became or what was talked about. But from the looks of it, they had never done that day before, and which meant something. And for them to now shelve that, report and pretend as if nothing has happened, and actually reward the oppressor, I think as an organization, SADC do realize what they stand to lose, and it's not for fun. It's something that is big. Their integrity as an organization is at stake. Their respect is at stake. So I think there is more pressure on SADC than what we actually understand. Yes, within Zanu PF there's infighting. They've always been infighting. I mean, nobody wants to live, amicably, just to say, this is my time, I want to go. They do not retire. They die there, basically. So that fight will always be there. So what I think is speculating and misleading others into believing that there's talks that are happening between the opposition and Mnangagwa that he was going to hand over power to. I believe that is just nonsense. Let us stop, thinking along those lines. I think everything still remains within SADC's hands, and they are the ones that are going to make the decision at the end of the day. So let's just sit tight and wait for it. That's my conclusion.
Thank you very much, Ben. And to the listeners, thanks very much for joining us tonight, and hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Have a good day.